Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Higher or Lower, brought to you by SpreadX, Sporting Index and oddschecker. I'm your host, George Elliott, delighted to be joined for the second regular season show so far by Dan Worth and Jack Wright.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very well, how are you?
I am fine.
Good.
Thank you. How did you guys enjoy the first weekend? Not of the football season.
Yeah.
Can we be clear with that?
Yeah.
Of the Premier League season.
Yeah. Premier League was a bit underwhelming, I think. Not too much excitement. But a 2-0 win for the Royals, so super excited.
Get in there.
In that sense.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit fragmented, a little bit undercooked, a lot of the sides. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a slow burner. Probably erupt into life this weekend.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let's get into the selections themselves. This is where we go through the betting markets in the Premier League and the Championship spread betting markets with Sporting Index and SpreadX. We take the midpoint and we say if we think they will eventually go higher or lower. Last week we did okay.
Yeah, not bad.
Jack didn't have a great time.
No, it was awful.
We did all right.
We did okay.
We did okay. Okay.
Did okay.
We're coming up. We're coming up with a scoring structure. It is in the works. It is TBC. But we'll get back to you ASAP to confirm what that will be, and we'll have a leaderboard of sorts ready in future episodes. But we're going to kick off with a game in the Championship. Friday night football live on Sky. Sheffield Wednesday, who've won one game 4-0 and lost one game 4-0, hosting Leeds in an all Yorkshire clash. We are looking at total goals here. The midpoint is 2.8 with SpreadX, 2.7 to sell, 2.9 to buy. We're going higher or lower. 3, 2, 1. All the same. Jack, giving you the worst.
I weren't sure we would be.
Giving you the worst last week. I think you can take us away.
The less best.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, you've said it there with that Sheffield Wednesday intro. It's quite a tough one to call because when a side loses 4-0 and wins 4-0, where's it going to go? And after a pummeling like that is Danny Röhl, who we all, I think, I speak for us all here, rate as a very, very good manager. One of the best in the Championship. Looking forward to a full season at Sheffield Wednesday. How's he going to react to it? Because I think, generally speaking, when you get a bit of a slacking, you batten down the hatches a little bit and try and keep things a little bit tight. So on that basis, it's hard to kind of work out where we're going to go. But I think the line's low enough for me to go higher in this one. You look at the Leeds games, there was a crazy opener as well for them, 3-3, and then they went 0-0. So we have had complete extremes generally, but all the Sheffield Wednesday games this season, including the Carabao Cup game, has gone over. I think they've got that about them, especially at home, that they will look to attack this game to a certain degree. And Leeds, if it clicks for them, can obviously score a good few goals. They're in a little bit of a turmoil at the moment, aren't they? Waiting, I think, for some numbers to come in to kind of get everyone's confidence back up as far as being the Championship favourites for the title. But I just feel this is a game that I can't see ending 0-0. And I think it's more likely to have goals in it than not. So with the line being just below the magical 3 for me, I think, higher is the way in. Yeah,
I agree. I think Sheffield Wednesday's first two games have been quite weird in their opening game. They were so dominant, created so many chances against Argyle. And then it was kind of the reverse against Sunderland, where their wings were clipped and they couldn't really get anything going. But the fact is, in both games, we've seen 4 goals. The fact is, in both games, we've seen one team be totally dominant and create loads of chances. And that is enough for me to think that it'll go one of those ways. I can't see it being cagey here. For Leeds, they went away to West Brom last time out, and a 0-0 draw might not seem the best result there. But actually, Carlos Corberán is a bit of a genius. It was really surprising to me the way that West Brom dominated the ball in that game. But I think Leeds struggling to create chances against West Brom away isn't really anything to get overly concerned about. I know the headline is that they've lost Ruter and they've lost Somerville, and that is all true, but there's still plenty of talent within this side. Like, you're looking at a team with Nonto off the left, Dan James off the right, who was brilliant for the most part last season. You've still got Joel Peru there, who missed their best chance on Saturday. And they created loads against Pompey on opening day in a game where there were 6 goals. Yeah. So between these two teams, there's been 1-0 draw, but the other 3 games have been 4-4 and 6. And Dan, you're going to tell me that it's under the lights as well, which helps. Although, will the lights be on?
Yeah, that's the thing.
When do they come on?
Eventually.
Not yet, surely. I think.
No, they'll come on at some point.
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant from the start.
10.
There'd definitely be fewer goals if the lights didn't come on, I think.
Or more.
Or more.
The players that have eaten their carrots will have a great time.
I'm glad you bought me some time because I really don't have much to add that you guys haven't already discussed. The only thing that stood out to me was Sheffield Wednesday are top in the Championship for XG, 5.53, and obviously are still under that with goals scored, having only scored 4. Leeds are right up there too, so I think, yeah. I said last week, anything under 3, I'm going high. I'm sticking with that this week.
It's not a bad philosophy in the Championship this season so far.
Yeah, the Championship has been way more exciting than the Premier League.
Well,
I know there's only one.
For the last decade. Just you wait till I tell you about League Two.
I can't wait.
Phenomenal. I averaged like 3.2 goals a game last season or something.
Nice.
Could be fake news. That needs checking. On to our first Premier League game. First Premier League game of the weekend that we're going to be covering. Brighton versus Manchester United. Brighton, formerly of the EFL. Manchester United, maybe one day to find themselves down there. The shirt numbers is the mark we're looking at here with SpreadX. So this is the total cumulative shirt numbers of goal scorers over the course of the game. The midpoint here is 60. So what you're after are plenty of goals, and those ones scored by players with a high number on the back of their shirt. 58 to sell, 62 to buy. 3, 2, 1.
All together.
Seems like the biggest lower ever to me, this. But Dan, I know you're very well versed in shirts, so I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I won't go through just in case someone else wants to do
A
it.
fashionman.
A lot of the Brighton players have got decent numbers. Welbeck 18, Matoma 22.
Dan, you can go through the shirt numbers.
How many goals as well to score?
Wow, he's in the Who Scored Team of the Week last week.
He scored.
Yeah, he did score. So 1 this season.
Yeah.
Adingra 24. All of the back line quite high for Brighton too, bar Dunk, who's obviously 5. I just don't think there's going to be that many goals. It's not necessarily the numbers on the back of the shirts here that's putting me off. It's 60 just feels quite high considering I don't see this being a huge scorer. Average goals between these two in the Premier League in the last 5 games is under 3. I would suggest you really need 3 or more for this to make up, regardless of who scores. Obviously, that's going to come back to bite me when Manu scores a brace in the first half. But low scorer, so kind of irrelevant to me. Yeah, the shirt numbers. Lower.
Jack?
I've been frantically trying to think of the current lady who does the numbers on Countdown, and I've got
Rachel Riley.
Rachel Riley. I was going to have to go with Carol Vorderman, my old
Forwards.
school. But it's a bit like that for this market, isn't it? Because not only have you got to try and work out what you think who's going to win it, what's the score going to be, and who's going to score and what shirt numbers they're wearing. So it's a potential minefield. But yeah, I agree. It's a very high line. I'm on the thought process that 2 or 3 goals in this game, therefore an average shirt number of 20 would still kind of get you like lower generally. Yeah. And I don't feel there'll be lots of goals in this either. I think certainly Man United, whether they're going to be better or not than last season, their clear focus seems to have been to try and prevent as many shots as they faced last season. So on that basis, Brighton potentially will have fewer chances and score fewer goals. But I think that was a great start for them last week. Whether they can follow that up again or not, we're at that stage, aren't we? As I say, the first game of the season, you're patching a bit of pre-season form with that one game, and we'll now start to get a bit of a read on whether it was a one-off. Certain teams are good, certain teams are bad. So, yeah, the shirt number scenario, you're looking at the likes of Bruno Fernandes as an 8, isn't he? João Pedro, 9. Xerxes, who scored obviously for United last week, is 11. Ruteo, I don't think he's got a shirt number yet. I did have a little search this morning, so he could be 99.
99.
We might change that. But, so that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. There you go, there's my tip.
Yeah.
See what shirt number
Get out if Jorginho's given a high number.
Yeah. So last season, it was 30 at home, 27 away. So, I think we'll be going lower.
Yeah, I'm a bit baffled by this line. Like if we were taking the total goals market here, where 3.25 would be the midpoint, I'd be going higher. I think this is a game where there'll be plenty of goals. But similarly, when you look at the actual squad numbers of the players, like United's main kind of goal-scoring focus in terms of starting players at the moment, like I know there's actually scored on debut, but I'm struggling to say that he's going to straight away come in and be that guy. And even that's 11. It's probably Bruno, who's number 8. Like Kobe Mainoo's only a player with a high squad number of 37. He's not a regular goal scorer. Similarly, Welbeck isn't someone who I think you can be relying is going to be a big goal threat. Their biggest goal threat for me is Joao Pedro, who's number 9. I don't really get it. Like, I know there are Hinchelwood and Veltman at fullback at 34 and 41, but
Solly March is
they're
7.
not being factored in. Yeah, Solly. Free Solly.
Every week.
And Max Vifa, their new centre midfielder, is not really a goal scorer either. Welbeck could score twice and Matoma could score once and a 3-0 win, and they would still end up being under with 18 and 22. So I think this is I'm not a massive fan of the market generally because I feel like it leaves too much to luck. But at the same time, this is one where I feel pretty strongly like this is an under. This would be my strongest fancy of the markets chosen, going lower here. Arsenal travelling to Aston Villa. Next up, 2 teams with Champions League football on the horizon. Arsenal, though, favourites for this one, despite being away from home. 0.75 the midpoint, 0.65 to sell, 0.85 to buy. 3, 2, 1.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm surprised you guys done this. I think, is it not the case? Isn't a point for Arsenal away at Villa a pretty good result?
Yeah.
Going into the game.
And based on last season's results against Villa.
Yeah, 3 points is even better.
Villa was superb in these games last season. Home against Arsenal, home against City. Arsenal obviously got their start to the season off to a pretty easy winning start, but Villa had a tougher game away at West Ham and got the job done 2-1. I think Unai Emery is kind of the perfect manager for these kind of games where he is used to taking a side with maybe a technical deficiency against an opposition and grinding out results. I think Villa's home form last season was very good. In terms of players, Onana came in and obviously made a great start to his Villa career, scoring the goal and stepping up in Douglas Luiz's absence. So 0.75 seems really a pretty high line for me between 2 sides where last season they're 2 of the best teams in the league and there's nothing to suggest there won't be again. So I'm very happy to side with Villa here. Jack, how come you're siding with Arsenal?
It's a very, very tough game to call. No result would surprise me, to be perfectly honest. And I just asked myself the question, if I had to pin my colours to a mast, where am I going to go? And I can't back against Arsenal at the minute. They just do continually impress me. They've been getting better and better over the last 2 or 3 seasons. The run in 2024 was incredible. Won 17 of their 19 fixtures, of course. The only one they lost in that run was at Aston Villa, and they got beat twice by them last season, which ultimately cost them the title, didn't it? Yeah. So you would suggest that it's payback time there. Whether they'll be good enough to do that or not, look, I don't think I can argue with Arsenal's performances at the moment and how they go about things. I was looking to fade Villa a little bit this season, but purely based on their commitments in the Champions League, which obviously don't come into play just yet. The one extra thing that tipped me over the edge as far as going for Arsenal, because I did kind of fancy the draw initially, is that Villa have conceded a few goals at home at the back end of last season. If that continues, they conceded 9 in their last 4. And I think Arsenal will score, and given Arsenal's defence currently being so strong, so good, and I think given an extra boost of confidence by Reyes' performance last weekend, there's a good chance they'll keep Villa out, and therefore we'll steal a win.
Dan?
No, I completely agree. It's super simple for me. I just think Arsenal sneak a win here. I don't think it's going to be emphatic by any means, but obviously just need a 1-0 or any win. We're happy here. I think key thing for me with Arsenal is that a lot of teams on the opening weekend sort of got off to a bit of a slow start. Wasn't overly impressed really by anyone, and I'd say Arsenal probably the most impressive side in opening weekend. Havertz already amongst the goals. Saka looked as good as ever. So yeah, it's more that I just don't see any reason why Arsenal don't win here, and only needing a straight win is enough. So yeah, higher seems okay to me.
Seems okay.
Yeah, I mean I'm definitely not super enthusiastic about this pick.
I can tell.
It really is.
It's going to be a cracking game, I think, but it's a tough one to call.
Okay, move on then to Bournemouth against Newcastle. Sporting Index had the total goal line here as 3.3, 3.2 to sell, 3.4 to buy. Are we going higher or lower? 3, 2, 1.
All in.
Jack, why are you going lower?
4 goals or more is a little bit of a stretch in a game where there's quite a few questions unanswered for me. I'm not quite sure on Bournemouth in the absence of Solanke. I thought they did quite well last weekend.
Yeah.
They've obviously got a structure, they've got a plan in place. They've moved quite quickly for his replacement. Evan Nielsen seems to be a decent fit, but how's he going to adapt to life in the Premier League? We've seen some of the best come over and take a little bit of time to adapt. So being a crucial part of their system and setup, I want to have a... Ideally, I'd like to have a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, for me to get a proper gauge on Bournemouth. Obviously, I haven't got that luxury with this particular market being here, so I'll go with what I think. I think also with Newcastle, it's hard to work out what they were about last week because of the early red card. So, yes, I expect Newcastle to perform well this season, but do I expect them to go to Bournemouth and blow them away? I don't. And Bournemouth did perform well against Newcastle last season. 2-0 win in this fixture, and it was a 2-2 draw in the other. But I just feel that line is high enough for me that I've got more on my side going lower in a game where it's quite a few questions still left unanswered.
Dan?
Yeah, the 2-2 obviously would have won this if you'd gone higher last season, but that's the only one in the last 5 where it's been higher, and even then it's like a very marginal win. I see this being quite tight, but as you say, it's hard to know what to expect with Newcastle because, I mean, last week doesn't really count. It's like completely threw off their game plan, and yeah, I mean, we all kind of suggested last week that we thought Newcastle would come out and smash it, and obviously they didn't get the chance to. So I'm kind of looking at this as if this is Newcastle's first game, and I think maybe, as we've seen, and I've already mentioned with a couple of the other teams, like a little bit slow. And 4 goals it feels hard to get to. I think Newcastle win, but by 1 or 2 goals maybe. So, 4 is high.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of think if this had been, if we'd been doing this before the season started, I might have found this a bit more difficult. It was interesting. I know that Newcastle had a man sent off early in that game, which impacted the whole game entirely. But they still really struggled in terms of attacking threat even before the red card, which I didn't expect at all. And that's against a Southampton team that I think are going to ship a lot of goals this season. So that plays a part in this. Bournemouth, for all, as an attacking manager as Iraola is, it doesn't seem like many of their games go absolutely crazy as well. You're not seeing many go kind of over 4.5, over 3.5 necessarily. So 2 decent sides I think might kind of cancel each other out. And as you say, it is a very high line, with 3.3 the midpoint. So happy to get against goals. Talking of high lines, the final game we're going to preview this week is Liverpool hosting Brentford. Total goal minutes here is 195.5.
That is big.
Dan, don't let us down. It was Sporting Index. 195. This is the total amount of minutes accumulative that goals are scored in within the game. So you want loads of goals and late goals. 195.5, higher or lower. 3, 2, 1. No.
Oh.
Why?
I'm really sorry, but that is so high. Also, I don't really want to talk about it, but I got burnt last week on this exact market.
Yeah.
I don't see why this is a higher line than I can't even remember which game it was last week.
It was Tottenham Leicester.
Yeah, I don't know why this is a higher line than that.
No one does.
Yeah, this just feels, and I love a high line. I love going over a high line, but this is just way too high. You need more than 200 if you're buying. And I already know, because we've spoken about it off air, what you're going to say, that it could make up, and maybe has. But I sound like such a misery this week. But really wasn't overly excited by Liverpool against Ipswich on the opening day. So where I probably would have said last week, I can't remember what I said last week, but that Liverpool would probably get a big win against Ipswich. That didn't happen. And I see no reason why they'll get a big win here. I have nothing other to say than that is just way too high. So clip that up and then show me it next week when it's 5-5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of, we saw Liverpool against Ipswich. They struggled to break them down until the hour mark. They didn't create anything of note at all in the first half. This is Arne Slot. This is his new Liverpool side. We know that it's very difficult in order to kind of create or to turn things around very quickly. And yeah, I know in the second half they created loads. They had 6 big chances. They scored 2 of them. But even so, Thomas Frank's Brentford are not an easy opposition whatsoever, and that we know that again they are resolute. They'll look to sit in and soak, and they'll probably do it pretty effectively. So I'm really surprised to see how high this is. I don't see why it would unravel to that extent, and why there would necessarily be late goals in this one when surely the likelihood is that Liverpool are ahead coming into the last 20 minutes or so and see it out fairly comfortably. So, yeah, very much on the low side here. Jack?
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. I think a few people made note of the fact that Slot's initial demeanour was very opposite of Klopp. So it'd be interesting to see with his first game at Anfield how that transpires. And obviously the main part of Liverpool's system and setup and high goal scoring was that heavy metal football, whatever it was called or dubbed when he first came over here, and that the fist pumping and that style. So, yeah, if that's going to be a slightly watered down or very much watered down version of that, then we should see that as far as the performances on the pitch and the goals on the pitch are concerned. I think there's a tick in the box for Slot as far as his half-time tweak that then resulted in a much better performance in the second half. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But Liverpool did create them decent chances, but they've had a problem over the last couple of years with one player or another missing those chances, and that's kind of a running theme. So, yeah, that could well continue again. And so Brentford are a tricky opponent. They are a tricky opponent. Liverpool did beat them 3-0 last season here, but that goal's only made up to 175, so it was still under, even though there was a few. Yes, the game you did mention, the away game, actually made up to 319, which is possibly where the traders are coming at from this one.
Yeah, it must be.
But I think, say, the Brentford at that kind of time, back end of last season, when they were in a bit of a spiral, are a different side to where they are now. And say Thomas Frank is known for being able to get a tactical approach right when he's got to go against the big boys. And yeah, I'd expect it to be relatively tight, given all what we've said, and certainly under that very, very high line.
Right now, the words that normally get my daughter to burst out into tears. Nap time. Nap time. Dan, we'll start with you. What's your best bet of the weekend elsewhere from what we've discussed?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wish I'd just put the shirt numbers bet in from Brighton, because compelling arguments all round.
You can't just.
You said it's the biggest low you've ever seen.
Thief. No, I didn't. I said it was my biggest bet of this one.
All right, okay.
But I've got something else though. I'm not just
no, that's
one trick pony.
My nap is actually very boring, and I've already given the rationale for it. But I've gone for a buy of Newcastle supremacy over Bournemouth at 0.35 midpoint.
Cool.
Yeah. Think Newcastle win?
Think Newcastle win?
Yeah.
Fine. That's all you need. Jack?
I'm going for a high risk strategy this week.
We've got some making up to do, have we?
Here we go, tilt. So what I would suggest for those watching is that this is a very highly volatile market. So please do make sure, if you are following this, that you bear in mind what your losses could be. So my market is the Chelsea multi-bookings.
Wow.
Yeah. I love the bookings. I had to bring this into play at some point in time, and here we go. This looks like a good opportunity for me. So, Chelsea multi-bookings basically is their booking points first half times by their booking points second half. So, if they don't get any bookings in the first half, this bet is dead regardless of what happens in the second half.
Fine.
And you
Move on.
settle at 0,
Yeah.
and you lose 150 times your stake.
Okay.
Right? So that's the
So
disclaimer.
please
Please.
stake accordingly.
Gamble responsibly. Yes, stake.
Is there a camera there? Yeah. Nice.
There is, yeah. But these two sides did pick up the most yellow cards across the campaign last season. It was 100 for Wolves and 105 for Chelsea. Plus, both of them got 4 red cards as well. Darren England is the referee, who has ironically been refereeing in Japan over the last few weeks.
Is that ironic?
Well, it's certainly
Just weird.
England.
Right. Very good.
We got there. And but last season, one of the better referees as far as the card backers are concerned. 58 yellows in 12 games, an average of 4.83, which ranked him 4th highest amongst those that have refereed at least 10 games. He also threw in a red card for good measure as well. And to clarify, this is 10 points for a yellow card, 25 points for a red card.
Correct.
If a player gets 2 yellow cards and therefore gets sent off, that settles at 35. Just to go on last season's form as well, at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea picked up a yellow card in the first half and 2 yellow cards in the second half, so that settled at 300, so you'd be plus 150. And here at Molineux, it kicked off a little bit. Mr. Coop was the referee, I believe, and he showed 1 yellow card to Chelsea in the first half and 4 in the second half, so that settled at 400, which is a profit of plus 250. There's a bit of history between these sides. There tend to be a few yellow cards in them, and as I said, Not much has changed at Chelsea, is it, over the last season? So same kind of players, yeah. But no, the main ones are there. The likes of Casado, the likes of Gusto, and so yeah, you can reel off a few that will transgress. And so Mr. England is one of the better ones for getting his cards out. So that's what I'm going for here. Highly volatile. So yeah, tread with caution, but obviously can be a very profitable market if you get it right.
Good stuff. I'm going to the Championship. Strangely, Norwich, Sheffield United.
Ooh.
Goals.
Yes.
Over goals, higher on goals at 2.8 in the midpoint with spread X. Norwich last time out was a 2-2 draw. Sheffield United last time out 2-2 draw. Norwich look pretty poor defensively, but we saw some attacking threat last time out in that 2-2 draw against Blackburn, creating loads of chances. Josh Sargent back in the goals, which is big. Sheffield United have added loads of attacking threat to their squad this season. Kiefer Moore, Callum O'Hare, Harrison Burrows and plenty of others. They look to me like they could have a really good season. Went ahead early against QPR. Scored 2 goals in both of their games so far this season, but were pegged back and didn't look great defending their lead against QPR at home last time out. So, yeah, with this being under 3, and in a league where we often see games go pretty mad for goals, I think I'd be really surprised if this isn't goal heavy.
I agree with you.
Thanks.
I do agree with you, and I think the likes of Ahmedhodzic and Kiefer Moore could have a field day.
Ahmedhodzic being very strongly linked to a move to Ipswich this morning, which maybe means that he won't be in the side.
That means he probably won't score. Ipswich, they bought Sammy Smodics last week. They're buying Ahmedhodzic this week.
Does it make you happy to see Ipswich buying such good players?
When they're about to play Norwich, yeah, I'll let them have it. Yeah, I'll let them have it, as I say was the case last week. But they've still got a lot of aerial threat, and I think you're right. Norwich do look very, very vulnerable from anything aerially into the box at this moment.
Full stop.
They are quite open defensively. Yeah, so you'll say Cordoba could come in, which will hopefully tighten that up. Callum Doyle there as well, but we'll see. As I say, they were both on the pitch when they conceded that late header last week. So but threatening going forward, and Josh Sargent could have had about 4 by the time he did score. So indeed.
There we go. There we have it. This week's episode of Higher or Lower, brought to you by Oddschecker, Sporting Index, and SpreadX. I've been your host, George Ellick. Delighted. Well, I'm kind of less delighted now, but I've been very happy to sit next to Jack and Dan for another episode. We'll be back again next week. Make sure if you haven't got an account already, click on the link below in the description to sign up for a Sporting Index or a SpreadX account. There's a new customer offer there. T's and C's do apply. And do remember, with spread betting, losses can exceed your initial deposit. Check out Oddschecker for the very best fixed odds prices that you can find across sports up on there as well. And Who Scored have you covered for all of your stats research ahead of your weekend's football betting. We'll be back again next week, won't we?
Yes.
Wow.
I believe so.
It comes thick and fast in the football season. It feels like we've already been here for weeks. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. We'll see you again next week, and please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.